All right, Ben. So I'm in your folder here. So what you need to have is you need to have an input and an output. So my example that I gave was I wanted to see what the relationship is between two variables. I wanted to see what the relationship was between wealth, so like the amount of money people make, and the relationship between wealth and the amount of meat that people eat. And I was speculating that if people make more money, they eat more meat. And because meat is a more expensive food, right? So if you look at my example, I took two sets of data and I put them into a table like so, like the ones I've made here for you. And I made a graph, a scatter plot for that to see if there was some kind of a trend, okay? Now, it was really hard to find data for you on education, but I could find education in general, but not for prisoners. So I thought, well, you know what, we'll look at like maybe incarceration rates, or prison rates with education rates in that country. So here's an example, or within the United States. So each state has a percent of people who graduated from high school and then a prison rate. This is the number of people in prison, like as a percentage, okay? So all you do is highlight that, and I don't know if we'll get any kind of a correlation here. But we're looking for the correlation. It doesn't mean we'll get it. And when we do the research, if you don't have a correlation, it actually makes the interpretation much easier, because you just say there's no correlation. And then when you go to describe the relationship or the line, you just say there's no correlation, okay? Now, in your conclusion, you might speculate why there's no correlation, or you could talk about other data that you would like to get your hands on to really look at. I know that data exists somewhere, but we have a hard time getting a hold of it because it's not always published. So what did I do? I just highlighted the input, which is, let's see what high school percentage of people who graduate from high school in each state, and if that has some kind of an effect on their prison rate. Okay, so I've highlighted it, and then you can go to insert. I can't do that on your document, but you go to add this chart, okay, and it may or may not set up a scatter plot. But look at this. You can see as the more people who graduate from high school, you can kind of see a trend here. It looks like the prison rate is going down. So if you can get more people to graduate from high school, the chances that they're going to be in prison is lower. It seems like maybe a weak or maybe even a moderate correlation. So if I look at this, and this, by the way, came from the data that I provide. Remember I gave you those links? I found this stuff here, world populations. I found a whole bunch of stuff about prison rates, and then I'm looking at education. Now, again, this is not a program inside prison cells. That data you'd have to collect probably if you were part of the government and collecting the data directly from the prison cells or prisons. And each state would have something different, so getting a hold of that data would require some kind of government collaboration, okay? So I set up a new sheet here. We're looking at this. Let's go and see. Let's check this out. So if I go to Edit Chart, I've got a scatter plot there. I'm going to Customize, and I'm going to go to Series. This is where I can do some things. Like I like to actually make this a bit darker. And then I'm going to stick that trend line in there. There's a trend line. I don't know how strong that trend is, but I'm going to change that to red. And then make it a little darker. There, I got a nice trend line there. Let's see what the R-squared value is. Oh, you know what? This is a moderate correlation, or just edging on moderate. Okay, I do have boundaries for that. You can see. I'll talk to you about it later. And then you want to put your equation in. So the equation is, and this tells you that for every, I guess, percentage increase in people that graduate from high school, this is in scientific notation, so it's like 0.002 264 decrease in, or is it 0.000264, sorry, decrease per thousand or whatever. You have to go back and check to see what that measurement is from here. I don't know, I'm going to just explore to see what that measurement is. Okay. All right. Oops. Let's get back to where we were. Here we go. And so generally you can see there's a trend where so we did find some correlation. I looked at all of these other ones and they were like zilch. But there does seem to be a trend between getting a high school diploma and prison rate, which I think is related to what yours is all about, because if you can educate people in the prison cells to get a high school diploma, you know, the chances that they would be reincarcerated might be much lower. But we don't have that data, so we can only speculate. This is only a correlation, by the way, so we can't say that this is factual, that the high school, there may be other factors in each state, but it has to be valuable because we have 50 states on here with this data, okay? And so I would think that that would be something that would most likely be proven to have some kind of causation. Definitely have correlation here. Causation, we'd have to prove that, but I would not be surprised if there was. Okay, so when you go to do your analysis, let me just open those up. I'll pause and then open those up. Okay, so this is the grid, and you know that this is my example here to look at. So when you go through yours, which you've already done this, please do compare it with mine. So like I have my research question. Here I have my two sources, so just narrow yours down to two. You've got a bunch in there, and I think you want to use the ones I gave you. Brief descriptions of each of these, and then just use the EasyBib or whatever to get the references. Here, I want to talk about this. I did not delete any data for that one table that I gave you, 0. Here, you're going to talk about what is the R value here. Okay, I mean it's I don't know if it's moderate or if it's weak, okay? I went into detail about what this equation means, which you could do, and I even simplified it to make it make a little bit more sense. But you can also speak in general terms of what's happening as this is increasing, what's happening to this. This final conclusion is wide open. It's up to you what you want to talk about. Okay, I'm just going to leave that open to you. Let's go back down to where the grid is. Okay, oops, that's not the grid. Here's the grid. If you go to this part here, that's where you're going to find this citation machine, which could help you out. And then let's go to where the R-squared chart is. The R-squared chart, that tells you how strong your correlation is. Now visually this is what it looks like, and I'd say yours is maybe moderate or weak. Where's your value? So 0.25, I think yours was 0.29, so I think yours does fall into the moderate correlation. I think it does fall in there, okay? Let's just look at it again. Right, 0.294, so it is considered a moderate correlation. You can see it there. Okay, I think that's what you want for data. It's got to be a scatter plot. I mean, you can use what I gave you here, but I want you to go and do the interpretations of it. You know, when in doubt, look at my example, and what did I say? Okay, well, yours is different. You have different variables, but we're talking about the same concepts here, right? Here, I talked about some of the data that I eliminated, and then if we look at the data on yours, okay, nothing was eliminated from this data set, whereas if I was going to use this data set, I would have eliminated some of these states because I didn't have a match. Like Oregon, I don't have the output value. So I would eliminate that. I don't have the output value for Georgia, Hawaii, whatever. But for this data set here, I had everything. All the state values, so they're all there. Pretty cool. Anyway, let me know if this doesn't help. I think just when you can get time to put it together, that would be great. Okay? Hope this was helpful.